love yourself is what it comes down to. Because if you can't love yourself, you'll never be able to see what you want to see in the mirror.
Exactly. You can put on potato sack and still love yourself. You're still good enough.
Exactly. I love it.
Right.
Hello, hello, hello. My name is Annemarie, and you are listening to the podcast Biz on the Brain, where we talk about how to realign your life and business so you can be authentically and unapologetically yourself and show up as yourself without any kind of pretense and with the highest form of honoring yourself and other people and attracting the right kind of people just by being yourself.
And it feels very much tailored to your taste, to your goals, and to your personality, because I think that is the most standing out factor that you can possibly have, being unapologetically, very authentically yourself, honoring that and attracting the kind of people that resonate with your vibe, with your personality and your sense of being at the very core. And I think that is very nourishing, and that can help level up in so many ways and just make you a better fulfilled human, and in turn help other people with your business in whatever shape or form you choose to help out in the world and choose to represent with your services and products. And in this episode, I am talking to the lovely Brianna, who is a fashion expert who helps her clients to actually tap into their own style and personality, regardless of current fashion trends or whatever dictate is currently on beauty standards, because all of that is very arbitrary. It's cultural, it is historically relevant, but in essence, it's all not very much tied to your own individual being, into how you want to express yourself, because that is what fashion is at its very core. Just a form of self-expression, of identifying and showcasing what you are about to other people, so you can kind of tailor the first slice judgment of other people and showcase what you're all about, be it with colors, be it with styles, be it with adhering to trends or not adhering to trends, sticking with subgroups, but also just listening to what feels good, regardless of what people think suits you or tell you that you look good in or that you should wear because of whatever reason they criticize you. You know, be it body shaming, be it your color, tone, templates, haircut, like all of that is very informative to help you elevate what feels good on you, makes you actually look good, accentuates your good features. But at the end of the day, the most important factor is that you feel good, that you honor yourself, and that you build confidence in yourself through self-expression, sure, but not contingent on other people's validation, which is hard. It's easy to say, but I think it just is a form of self-expression, but also a practice of self-confidence. But without further ado, I want to introduce the lovely Brianna. Hi, Brianna. Thank you so much for joining this podcast and for sharing your wisdom on anything that is stylish, but also intuitive, and just sharing about your insights in business and life and just having a casual chat, really. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here, Annemarie.
Thank you. Me too. This is a brand new podcast. So I'm super excited where this is going, because I usually work best on intuition, like just really winging it almost. It seems erratic sometimes from the outside, but it's just like following your guide. And I fell. Thank you. Me too. This is a brand new podcast. So I'm super excited where this is going, because I usually work best on intuition, like just really winging it almost. It seems erratic sometimes from the outside, but it's just like following your guide. And I fell out of tune for a while. So it's just why I'm doing this podcast on intuition. So I want to kick this off by asking you, what do you think intuition is? How would you define it for yourself?
That's a great question. I think I would define intuition as that pull towards a specific direction, and you can't necessarily explain it. It's just that feeling that comes up and that little voice that goes, this is what you're supposed to be doing, or, you know, this is what you shouldn't be doing sometimes too. And it guides you towards something bigger than you would expect a lot of times too, I think. And I think sometimes we ignore our intuition because it's scary, whether that's because we can't imagine ourselves doing that thing. And so it's that feeling of, oh, I couldn't possibly do that. Like, if you get like the intuitive hit of, you know what, I should reach out to this person and ask if they'd be interested in collaborating with me on a podcast, for example. And you're like, no, they'd be too busy, or they wouldn't want to be on my podcast, or whatever reasons we come up with for ourselves, and we ignore that. But it's there for a reason, right? It's that inspiration and it's that guidance towards something better for you. And you never know until you try. And so I think leaning into listening to that and being open to trying things is a huge step, but it's a wonderful step to take.
And do you feel like intuition is a big part in how you show up in your business and your clients? And has it like evolved over time and you leaned more into it? Or like, how would you feel that works in with business?
Yeah, I think it's been an interesting evolution from where I started, for sure, because there's a combination for me of intuition and intention, and how you are setting those intentions and what you are leaning into for inspiration. I like to think of intuition as being kind of the creative, the inspiration, the flow resource. And then the intention being, this is what I plan on doing. Here's the course of action that I want to take. For me, when it comes to working with clients, there's definitely some intuition to it. And that, I think, is leaning into your inspiration, your creativity more. So working as a stylist, for example, it is a very creative field. And I'm of the mindset that it's not cookie cutter. It's not one size fits all mentality. One saying that a specific style is going to work for every single person who has a certain type of body type, I don't think that's accurate. I think that it is so much more flexible, because if somebody feels really confident in a specific type of thing, why would I take that away from them because either culturally speaking or somebody out there thinks that's not the best fit for them, when they feel great in it and they exude that confidence, and therefore it makes it the right fit for them. So I think there is a sense of intuition that you have to lean into, of knowing when you're talking to somebody what is going to work best for them, and that conversation that you have of how can this be most supportive of you, and breaking out of the traditional thought process, which is, I think, a lot of people, when it comes to intuition, it's breaking out of that traditional thought process of you do X, Y, and Z, and that's how it works. And sometimes it's actually, you can allow for opportunities to come in and see what happens with them and then take action on it. And yeah, I think that definitely applies when it comes to styling too. And really listening to my clients has been a big part of learning about them and understanding and being as supportive of them as I can. Because again, it's not necessarily, this is your body type, this is what's going to work for you. It's more than that. And it's really listening to what are they saying and what am I feeling when I listen to them. I'm a pretty empathetic person too, so I can understand where they're coming from when they're sharing some of their fears with me, and they're trusting me with this resource of how they want to express themselves and how they can show up. So I think it's especially important to allow yourself to lean into that when it comes to your business. And it looks different for every business, I think. And that's something else that I had to learn through the process is it does look a little bit different than the traditional, I do this and this is the result. Sometimes it's, why don't we try this? And it's being more open and seeing how things flow, if you will.
Yeah, it's like more of an organic approach. And I think in our society, we are so focused on having the right decision or something to justify, because everything is so much logical, so much rationalized, and also maximized. Like you need to have a certain template so you don't have to waste your time on like trying to find the right fit. Or also we are being bombarded with all of these images in the media of trends of like what body type currently is good, apparently aesthetic, is like what body type are we shaming? Like we're all different, right? We have different comfortable levels and different attachments to colors and patterns and triggers, for instance. And so, yeah, it is really an individual thing. And if you just tell me like for my face shape, I should wear these types of glasses and this type of head, and for this color, like I should wear warmer colors instead of pink, or you're just limiting yourself. And then you're just putting additional pressure to all of the pressure that's already on our bodies, especially female bodies. And so you can never feel like you actually put on something for your own joy, because it feels like you have to justify it on some level. You have to optimize it to some outside gaze to be approved. And then you just fall out of line with your own intuition, I feel. And I think that might be a good important aspect in your work as well. Like when you talk to clients and you give them different options, that you like gauge their reaction, and then you can talk about it. What made you retract when I gave you that option? Is there something off-putting about it? Is there a story behind it? Do you never want to do it? Or have you not tried it? Have you been shamed about it? Or just, feeling it out of where are they drawn to? What do they resonate with? And where do they have some limiting beliefs? Maybe someone told them you don't look good in mini skirts, or like above the age of 30, you can't wear shorts, and all of these ridiculous stories we tell ourselves and we tell others, So I think that might be a good way to use intuition.
That is absolutely 100% correct. And it is so valid in how I work with my clients too. And a big part of it is people think, okay, so you're a stylist, which means that you're going to dress them a very particular way. And I try to remind people it's personal styling. It's personal to the person I'm working with.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that mean to them? Not what it means to me. What does it mean to them to dress a certain way? And how can I help them achieve that? And have an outside opinion to help them do that and guide them. I'm never going to tell them you have to do it this way. There is no other way. And I'm of the mindset that I like to focus on, what do we want to accentuate? What are the positives versus what are the negatives? So instead of someone saying, I want to hide this part of myself because I really hate how it looks, I'd rather say, what's something you love about your figure or your color or this part of your body? What do you love about it? How can we accentuate that? How can we make that the thing that you're focusing on featuring and you feel really good about, versus putting any sort of attention on the negative aspect? And you mentioned with color, and I think that's such a great example. People will talk about, oh, I can't wear the color yellow. Why can't you wear the color yellow? Oh, well, I was told when I was a kid that looked terrible on me. Okay. Valid for having this experience that is made you think you can't wear the color yellow. However, do you know how many shades of yellow exist in the world? Do you know how many types? And like you said, there's warm yellow, there's cool yellow, there's bright, there's muted. There's so many options out there. If we tell ourselves, I can't do this, we've limited the options that exist for ourselves. And so rather than saying you can only wear this color, I'd rather say, well, let's play. Like, this is an opportunity to play dress up, like when you were a kid and you didn't care if you put a skirt on as a cape. It didn't matter because you were having fun. Let's do that, but with color. Let's do that, but with shoes, and just have fun and see how you feel in it. And that's a huge part, is how do you feel? Because that is going to gauge how you're showing up and if you're comfortable or not being yourself. So I think that's a huge part of, not just for me to lean into my intuition in that way, but even a client has to lean into it and allow themselves to feel through things. And that could be the scariest part, is no, just tell me what to do. I can't do that, because if you want it to really work for you and to make sure that it's supporting your needs and your lifestyle and what you have when it comes to fashion function balance and how you want to be showing up and how you feel when you show up, I can't feel that for you. So you have to be able to gauge at least a little bit how you feel when you're trying on a certain piece and how you want to feel. So it's an interesting process, I think, that takes a little bit more work on the inside than people expect for something that comes out on the outside.
I love that. It kind of feels like it's a bit of a healing process for the inner child in a way, because now you have someone where you can be safe to explore these things and, try things without judgment, right? So you have this big wardrobe, go play dress up, and then we can see what works for you, for your body type, where you feel comfortable, where you feel you're accentuated, which is a mindset thing, right? It's a mindset shift. You can focus on all of the things to hide, or you can focus on there's stuff that I like, and then you just grow your own confidence, and then you see it's all a bigger picture, because ultimately your outside doesn't define your inside. It's just an expression of what you want to show other people. It's a very interesting first impression. The way you dress up could be all colorful, and then people associate certain things with you. You can control it to some extent, but at the end of the day, you're just dimming your light. And I think that's like a trickle down effect to your overall confidence, and it just goes downhill from there. So I think fashion, even though people see it often as frivolous or superficial, is so deeply rooted in self-identification and expression. And I think that is totally valid. I love it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And it actually also triggered a memory. Like when I was in university, like at the very beginning, I was very insecure. I just didn't feel like pretty or fitting in, and then at one point someone recommended this session where they did the color analysis of your skin. Where like, you're in autumn, you're like a spring, and then they just held up all of these colors and then tried to sell you cosmetics. But so I was in autumn, and then suddenly that was my entire identity. I was like, I can't possibly wear black. I can't possibly this. And then I like went out and like cut my hair and dyed my hair according to like whatever the person said. It was not good. And I just limited myself so much during shopping. I just looked at all of these pretty things. I'm like, I couldn't wear that. Doesn't look good on me, just automatically. Even though I can combine things in different ways, or I also love to wear wigs, just like to spice it up. And like, even if it doesn't look good on me, I can still wear it and like whatever. I feel like a princess now. Sue me. I don't care. Right. But I noticed with that didn't just come like this limiting. It also triggered judgment of other people. Like I was walking around feeling a little bit better than people. Like, oh, this color doesn't look good on you. You're definitely not in autumn, or like you definitely shouldn't wear that. It's just like I started being mean to other people because of that. And that wasn't good. I didn't like that about myself. And so I slowly had to like unlearn that and like point the mirror at me on that, where you can have opinions on other people what they should wear, but it's none of your business. And mostly it's just indicative of your own self-confidence. Like they just living their best life, so let them.
Exactly. And I think that is an interesting thing that you bring up too, because a lot of people will, when I get on a call with them, even if it's just networking, the first thing they'll say is, I'm sorry, I'm not dressed nice enough. And it's like,
oh,
try to say that you're not. Like, this is just a conversation. I'm not here to judge you. And I'm also not here to style you unless you request that I do. I'm like, I'm going to come out and give unsolicited advice, and I'm not going to tell you what to do or how to dress unless you're looking for that from me. And then I can give you, again, the guidance, and I can give you tools that I know have worked for me and are helpful for other clients. But again, at the end of the day, you're the one who has to make the decision of how you want to implement those things and if it's the right fit for you. And even when I'm working with clients, you know, like you said, I'm not going to come up to someone and say, hey, you could definitely dress better. You're not wearing the right colors, or that fit could be better for you. Who am I to say that? How rude, first of all. And anytime I have someone say, oh, how do I bring you up? You know, my friend dresses terribly and they don't want to change how they dress. I say, you don't. If they're not interested in changing anything about themselves, why would I change them? That's not for me to decide. It's for the person who decides, you know what, I'm really overwhelmed and I feel like my body has changed and I want to understand it better. Could you help me, because you're an outside perspective that can help me see things that maybe I'm not seeing about my body. Maybe I'm not able to find those positives because I've been so focused on the negatives for so long. I want an outside opinion to come in and help me discover that about myself. And it's not me telling them this is what's right and this is what's wrong. It's let me help give you some of the prompts so you discover it for yourself. There's so much mindset work that goes into what I do. It's funny. It's, 90% mindset, 10% fashion is how I feel, even though it's a styling business. But it's so interesting how just as a society, we think that we somehow have the option of telling other people how they should or shouldn't be. And that's not the case for anybody. Like, you shouldn't come up to someone and tell them how they should be living their lives or what they can or cannot enjoy in their life. Who wants to live their life that way? Who wants to have someone come up and tell them that? So why would you do that to someone else? And I think recognizing in yourself, even like you said, when you start seeing those things and projecting a bit about, I'm not feeling confident about myself, so who can I take down a peg maybe? It's interesting when you start seeing that shift in yourself and you go, what is it that I'm missing myself that I feel the need to kind of lash out at other people around me or to take them down because I'm not feeling good about myself? So, I mean, thank you for sharing that story even about yourself.
Yeah. I don't know. I love like learning these things and growing from it. Like, yeah, just spreading more kindness even to myself. Like, it's a long process. And I feel like in this society, it gets hard, especially if you're always on social media. Everybody has an opinion and they always want to share, especially if it's negative or if you're living your best life, then it's even worse because people suddenly attribute some kind of story to it, like you don't deserve things, or because you are successful need to be knocked down a little bit. Like tall poppy syndrome online is really bad, especially for women, right? Cancel culture hits them much, much harder. Just look at politicians. Men can show up in suits, whatever, but then you look at female politicians and suddenly they're asked if they're just meeting for the same age and talking about cosmetics and what they're wearing in the newspapers instead of like what they're actually making. So there's all of this pressure, even if you are not fashionable, like Devil Wears Prada, where it's like, I don't care about fashion. And then she gets the lecture about why fashion is woven into our society, into everyday. It's a decision you make, how you dress. If you want to be Steve Jobs, wear the same thing every day. That is a decision that still gives people an idea, even if it's incorrect, but like it gives them an idea of who you are, how they can treat you. It's a status thing, it is a personality thing. There's just so much color psychology, whatever behind it, as a whole package deal with how you show up, your body language, and all of that. It's a big part of making an impression on people. And most people have thin sliced first impressions and make snap judgments. And even though that's not fair, that's what it is. So if you want to be in a business, you need to figure out what it is that you want to portray, also what you're comfortable with, and then how you can merge that in feeling authentic. So not a dress up. Like you're not a superstar, you're promoting like a billboard, some brands. You need to be conscious about what you pick and feeling good in it, because otherwise like you can be amazingly dressed but feel terrible, and that will show.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've had people, when I work with them on photo shoots for their brand, if they're updating their website or content, and when we first talk about what they want that to look like and how they want their photo shoot to go and the image that they want to have portrayed with it, I've had people tell me, it's okay if you can find me a 3-piece suit, as long as it looks good, it's okay if I'm uncomfortable wearing it. And that is a huge red flag that I'm immediately like, absolutely not. The fact that you're using the word uncomfortable in that sentence, no, you shouldn't feel uncomfortable. Even if you think, well, wearing a 3-piece suit is what people expect to see from me. If that's not you, if that's not your brand, especially if you're an entrepreneur, a business owner, and you want to be authentic to who you are and what your brand's purpose is, you need to be able to find that balance of who you are, who your brand is, and the overlap. And if neither of those wears a 3-piece suit, why would you wear a 3-piece suit to your photo shoot? Wear something that is going to elevate you and make you feel more confident going into it. But if it's not a 3-piece suit, don't do it. Maybe it's a t-shirt and jeans, but you have a blazer on and a pair of heels, and it's still comfortable for you, but it feels put together and it feels a little bit more chic or edgy or whatever words you feel are describing you and your brand. And that's perfect. It doesn't need to be a ball gown. Like you said, if you're not going to be on the red carpet and you don't want to be dressing that way, then don't do it. Dress in a way that is going to be comfortable for you and really accentuate the parts of yourself that you want to be accentuating, and the personality and self-expression that you want to be expressing through that, because you can't express yourself if you're dressed as somebody else or somebody else's expectation of you. That's not you. That's someone else's variation.
Exactly. And it takes so much energy to keep up this charade, basically, because I also work in photography and videography, and I do not want anybody to show up uncomfortable. It's so hard to pull them out of that little like shyness, or when they just feel uncomfortable just with the idea of being on camera in the first place. It's so hard to get them out of that and get them back into the playfulness creative type where they just experiment, just play around, mess around, and you get that actual soul and you get the actual like person behind this facade of being professional. And if you add a layer of basically physical protection, armor of sorts with clothing, that gets even harder, because then you maybe can't even move around properly, or you feel stiff, or then there's this disconnect when you finally meet the people you want to work with, and they're different. You think you attract them with that, but then you have to keep it up all the time. Like in all the calls, do you have to wear the 3-piece suit now? So you can never get a break from this. Is this what you want to do? Yes, you have to like dress in the way that you want to be, like dress in the way, if you want to be a successful person, you can't just sit around and look like a potato all the time. Maybe you change their mindset through the clothes, right? But at the same time, you shouldn't aspire to be an actor and then just trying to mimic something, because then your entire energy is off. It will look off in the photo, it will look off in the video. And like what's the gain?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's such a good point too. And I think there's something to be said for, sometimes there is a degree of trying something that you're not usually comfortable with to push yourself a little bit and maybe take on that character, if you will, when you're first starting out. But it can't be so far-fetched that, like you said, you have to act every day and put on a face that's not yours. This is like a next step. This is like a variation of myself that it's still me, it still feels like I could dress this way, but maybe it's a little bit more upscale than I would, or maybe it feels more professional, or whatever word it is that you're going for the goals that you have. And it's a few steps above where you're dressing right now. That's okay. I think that's a great step in, because it's still you. At the end of the day, you still feel like this is a version of yourself that you could see. It just, maybe you thought, I wouldn't be able to dress this way until X amount of years from now, but I'm going to do it now. And it feels a little bit like I'm taking on this character to start because I'm not fully confident, but I want to be this person. I want to dress confidently. I want to put myself out there in this way. But it's very different from, I'm taking on this totally different persona that isn't me because of the expectation of others. And I think that's a big part, is when we start taking the time to recognize what it is that we want and what we need, and how that relates to how we show up each day. It's, in its simplest form, getting dressed is a very small, consistent action that you can take every day for yourself. And it is something you can build a habit with. So treating it like self-care, treating it like, how do I show up for myself today by getting dressed, instead of, well, I'm going to just throw this on because I ran out of time and I don't care what I look like. Or the flip side, agonizing over it so much that you're like, I don't even relate to these clothes, and when I put them on, I feel like a facade. It's finding the balance of, I'm taking care of myself, I'm recognizing who it is I want to be, and I'm dressing as that person so that I can start showing up as myself, even the days when I don't feel like, oh, I don't feel like I have it in me. I'm really nervous about this networking call or meeting with this person who I look up to, and I don't feel like I'm confident enough to do it. Having the practice of, I'm dressing as this person who does that already, can help with that, but not so far-fetched that you don't recognize who that person is.
I love that. Yeah, it's like a personal evolution of sorts, where you just always, when you picture yourself, like, what would that person be like if I already were that person? Like in manifesting, like, oh, imagine you're already the CEO of the business you're dreaming about. Like, what would she be like? What would she be doing? What would she be wearing? And if you start doing that, to embody that, to be like ready to receive that or step into that role, that helps you as much as you associating or being mindful of what you're putting on and why you're putting it on and how you're feeling about it. Sort of like a dating Marie Kondo, where you're like, okay, I'm putting on this sweatshirt. Why? Do I feel like a potato day? Like I don't do anything, or do I to put myself down because I'm feeling like bad about myself? Could I maybe dress up in a way that elevates my mood, where I have certain clothes that associate it with certain moods, or maybe trigger a memory that would be nice, or maybe even like dress up so you can feel more empowered and feel like, okay, it's a work day, I work from home, I'm not in the mood. What if I just put myself in like business clothes to like feel the energy of it, instead of just being whatever, I'm just putting on something on, and then you feel like a bit meh because you didn't even pay attention to the energy you're like continuing. Basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where the big intentional piece comes in that I like to talk about, where I help people create intentional wardrobes. And the focus isn't, you can only have X amount of things in your closet, or you only wear this color, like we were saying earlier. It's, what do you want to feel and how do you curate that? You don't want to go to your closet and say, okay, so I've got 15 things in here that I don't like, and 5 that I kind of like, and 3 that I absolutely love. What I would love for my clients is for them to feel like 99% of the stuff in there are things that they love, and that one final percent is something that they still like and will wear, but maybe it's for a specific function. Like, they don't necessarily love their workout clothes, but they need them in order to go and work out, and that's why they have them. But not like, oh, I have this sweatshirt, I actually hate how it looks on me, but I wear it because it hides this part of me that I don't like. And that's just so many negative thoughts that go into it, instead of being intentional and saying, well, what if I had this item that, one, made me feel good because I just like the item itself. I like how it looks. And two, it accentuates a part of me that I like. So now I've got two positives when I'm looking at it. And three, I go to my closet and I already know that it fits and it works for my lifestyle. So it becomes an easy choice of, oh, I have this thing that I need to do today, or I need to feel a certain way. Easy choice. I love how this looks and fits on me. And I know 3 different ways that I could wear it today. I'm going to pick that. So it's creating that intentionality and that focus. So when you go in, it's not limiting your resources. It's actually expanding the resources that you have and starting to recognize how you feel about yourself and how the clothing is a tool. It's not going to fix everything for you, but it's certainly a tool, and it can add positive to your life, or it can detract from your life. Like I said, if you're using it to hide yourself, that's not adding anything to your life. It's not making you value yourself or appreciate who you are or really express yourself. It's holding you back from doing all of that. So I think it is really important to come to it with some intentionality. And even if it's as simple as like, okay, I don't need to do anything today. I don't need to meet with anyone. I could just wear a t-shirt and jeans. Totally fine. Put on that t-shirt and jeans if you love it. And does it make you feel good? Because you can feel good in a t-shirt and jeans. Like, you can have a pair that fit really well, or you love the color combination of them, or you love the style when you pair them with certain shoes. It's not about the article of clothing itself. A lot of times it's, what are you putting into that article of clothing? Whether it's, I've held on to this for 10 years because it was given to me by this person, and so I'm holding on to their memory, but it's not actually serving me. I can't wear it, or it doesn't work for me, or whatever reasons we have, but we still hold on to it because we feel obligated to. So for a lot of people, it's, what obligations are you holding on to? And sometimes, what guilt do you hold on to with the things that you keep in your closet that aren't an intentional choice? It's just developed over time.
It's true. It's like those people who buy like a size smaller because they have diet goals, or like brides who buy like a super tight dress and then they starve themselves, and that's not fun. That it shouldn't be it, because you can find clothing in your size, and all of the sizes are very arbitrary, and every shop is different anyway. So it doesn't matter at all. And then, why don't you just wear something that you're looking good in now? Because you can change shapes. You might go on a diet, or you might lose weight or gain weight or have a baby, or what, there's so many things you cannot control. So yes, you could hold on to all of the things for all the eventualities, but then you're swamped with all of the options. And again, then you don't feel good because you see all of these unused items that you wasted money on, that you don't fit in anymore or will not fit in. And I feel like you can make yourself feel really bad with your closet when you're not mindful, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. So it's crazy how the society really makes us so conscious of fashion choices, but at the same time crucifies us for it. I don't know.
The double-edged sword for sure, because, we're told by society essentially that we shouldn't be judgmental of others, right? That's at the base.
Yeah.
That's the compass is, you shouldn't be judging others, and you should be really kind to them. And yet at the same time, it takes less than 7 seconds to make an assessment of somebody first impression. It takes 1/10 of a second to decide if you trust someone before you even speak to them. And a lot of that can be based off of either how someone is dressed or their body language. And body language can come from how you're dressing. Because if you feel a certain way in an article of clothing, one way or the other, it will affect whether you stand up taller or whether you find yourself shrinking because you're trying to hide. And your clothing is showing that. And it's not allowing you to really empower yourself. And that is going to then resonate with a person who's meeting you for the first time to make that assessment, whether or not they choose to unconsciously, subconsciously. We're deciding how we feel about somebody before we've even had an opportunity to speak to them, which is unfortunate, but it is also just human nature to make those assessments of, is this person going to be a good fit? Do I want to go and talk to them? Or do they appear like somebody who doesn't want to be spoken to? I'm not going to put myself in that position, or I'm not going to go talk to them if they don't want to be spoken to. So it's also, what are you projecting by what you are wearing? What are you projecting by what you are putting out there and how you are holding yourself? And are you feeling fully comfortable and authentic to who you are and confident? Or do you not feel like yourself? Do you feel like, I don't want to be here right now, I don't want people to see me, even if you don't recognize in yourself that that's a feeling you're feeling is I don't want to be seen by others, other people are going to recognize it subconsciously that you don't want to be seen. And so they're going to try not to see you because that's how you don't want to be seen.
Exactly. And building on that is also when you show authentically and you just express yourself however you want, and you will always have people who will have opinions that are not favorable, no matter what you do. You cannot ever please everybody. But if you just really do your own thing, you actually can naturally sort people out because they will be attracted to you if they like your vibe, if they like your colors, if they like that you're loud or that you're like businessy or like whatever your style and vibe is. And the ones that really don't like it, you don't have to pretend or act for anymore because they will naturally be repelled. They might say a thing or two, but if you stand your ground, I guess it's also like building boundaries of sorts. Mm-hmm. But it helps you be authentic. It helps you be more fulfilled and attract people that resonate that with you. So you just level up in that way and build a community while also building confidence. And then you inspire one another because they might be inspired to suddenly dye their hair a different color they always wanted, but didn't feel comfortable in because you showed them that you did, or you affirmed it to them, just like, go for it. You're the hype girl, for instance. And I really, really like that idea.
Absolutely. And I think it's interesting because we inspire people without even realizing it, right? Mm-hmm. It just things that you say, things that you do, ways that you show up, you don't even realize who it is that's watching you in your life. And yes, there is always going to be somebody out there who wants to troll on your opinions and have a negative opinion of you. But like you said, not everyone is going to like you, and that's okay. Not everyone is meant to like you. That's not your people. That's not the group of people that you're meant to connect with anyways. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense that the more that you lean to being yourself, the more you're going to find the connections you're supposed to make. And naturally, like you said, the people who you aren't supposed to be connecting with anyways, who aren't your type of people, aren't going to be reaching out to you. They're going to fall off. And that's a good thing. And it's, again, focusing on the who do you want to be impacting. And those are the people that are going to let you know you've made such a positive impact in my life. And I've even had this with people who I didn't even realize or watching the content that I was making when I first started my business, people from my previous job. And I'd had one or two conversations with them, maybe, and they were in a totally different part of the building that I worked in than I was. But after a year of putting content out, somebody reached out to me and said, hey, I just want to let you know, I thought it was really great how you went out and you did your own thing and how you just speak from your heart when you're talking. And it really inspired me. I want to start my own business one day. And I want to go and do this very specific thing because I see you doing your own thing and loving it. And you're making such a positive impact on me that I want to go and do something like that too. And I never would have guessed that that outcome would have come from me just being myself and being goofy and just enjoying life and having fun with what I do. Not style related. What you're doing has nothing to do with style, but it was just me being myself and leaning into that. And that is what I think is so important, is really allowing yourself to be who you are and not holding yourself back because of fear of what other people think. And that is a lifelong lesson, I think. We will always find new things will come up. And as you're evolving as a person, new fears will evolve with you and things that you never thought of before. And so it's seeing those things and not letting them stop you in your tracks. It's recognizing them and then saying, all right, how do I show up as myself in this way now? And how can I really lean into that? Because why would I want to be somebody else when I can be me?
Right. And it's a trickle down effect. Like maybe it starts with fashion, but it just extends to your overall being, like all of the ways you interact with people, all of the ways you show up in business and connect. So even though you think it's just fashion, it can have an overall effect and then move over like a domino effect to other people. And I know when I go outside and sometimes I see someone really cool or colorful or gorgeous, I just really like, it gives me so much joy to see someone like that, and maybe gives me inspiration, or I'm just in awe of some people on the street, especially like in big metropolis. Like I love going to Tokyo and just people watch and what they're wearing. And it gives me ideas, it gives me inspiration, or it just gives me a little boost of confidence. If they do it, I can do it. I can like maybe try a little bit, or I can go on full out, or, you know, maybe move somewhere else. Like you don't know what that effect can be. it is really powerful when you start to spread that joy in a way, because passion really is contagious. And at the end of the day, you need to be passionate about so many different things. And then if you are, so why don't you do them more? So if you're passionate about wearing dresses, just wear the dresses all the time. Or if you're passionate about your business, then yeah, you want to, talk about your business, and then you become this radiant being that people gravitate to. And then they feel like, oh, I like your passion. I have a passion too. Can I share? And I think that might be like a good cycle to move forward, instead of just comparing ourselves and just having this underlying fear of, do I match this? Am I good enough? But if you just like hype each other up and you're like, okay, I can do whatever I want, you can do whatever you want, and I will cheer you on and not judge you on it. But, if you want my advice, I can give it to you. But we're all like from a place of love and compassion and just joy. And you can it's arbitrary. Fashion is just one means to express yourself. When cavemen didn't care about that, it's really not necessary, but it's a beautiful byproduct of expressing your soul, I think. So
yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I think, again, the thing about fashion and the thing about style is it's so personal, it's so unique, and it is an artistic expression, right? And the thing is, at our core, we need to create. And it looks different for everybody. Mm-hmm. Not everyone would consider themselves an artist, but all of us have creativity in us, and all of us has a form of art and expression through that. And so for a lot of people, it can be through their clothing that they're finally getting to express themselves, and they feel like they don't have, the typical creativity that someone else does through means of music or painting or any of the typical artistic ventures that are out there. But I love what you said, because yes, at one point in time, it was not necessary to have the latest, fur skin on your body. It was, what is the most functional that is going to keep us warm so that we can survive? And as culture and society has grown, has expanded, and there have been different subsects and different forms of expressing through those cultures and societies, it has been a great byproduct of that is the inspiration from those places and how you connect to your culture and your society, and how you merge that with your own unique artistic vision. So it's interesting because it's not necessary, because there is a functional aspect to it. But I think for creativity's sake and where we are in the world right now, it has been necessary as a form of expression.
Right. And it's also such a privilege, really, how we're like in the West, we're so able to just show up like as skimpy as we want, as clothed as we want, all different colors. And we can wear pants like women couldn't wear pants 100 years ago, all of that. And then, in some countries, you can't even show your hair, show your face, or it's heavily, tied to religion or tied to the culture. And fashion and clothing has always been tied to politics, historical and sociological developments, all of the different forms of dress. Like, some people see like corsets as a way to subjugate women, even though that's thrown out of context, really. But, there's always an underlying meaning to it. It's not just about self-identity. It's a bigger picture. And I found it really interesting when I traveled around the world and lived in so many different places. Certain cities had a certain look. You can tell some people are from a certain city. Like even when I was in Australia, some people in Melbourne looked completely different than people in like Sydney, or like they were in Cairns. And then I went to Hong Kong and they had a different vibe. And it was just interesting to find like a stereotypical persona for that place, which of course doesn't do justice to all of the individual people, but it shows you that we on some level conform to an ideal that is arbitrary, but also defined by the environment we live in. So it's good that we can express individuality where we are able to affirm ourselves and have a place in this society.
Yeah. And I think it's also interesting because as individual as clothing and fashion and style can be for a person, it's also an opportunity to connect with others. And like you said, I think such a great expression of that is when you go to different places and you recognize there is a specific type of style to the location you're at that other people are following. It's that connection piece. It's that what do I see in other people and how can I show them that I am also part of this thing? And I like to say that the great thing about style is you can connect to others through it. One of my favorite examples is I love fantasy genre books, movies, games, things like that. And so if I have a t-shirt that is representing a book that I read or a movie series that I watch, and somebody that I meet recognizes that, it is an opportunity and it opens a conversation for them to say, I love that series. I just started reading it. How long have you read it? And then somebody who I probably would have never had a conversation with before, we have a new opportunity to connect over something that we find similar interest in, and who knows how that will expand from there. But people don't realize that something like that, or even like you said, where you go places and you are inspired by what people are wearing, you can take that with you. And then you express that to somebody else and they go, wow, I really love your style. It reminds me of the time that I visited Hong Kong. And you go, that's great. I actually just came back from there and I was thinking the same thing when I put this together. And they go, when did you go? How was your trip? What did you love about it? And you're starting to connect with people through expressing yourself on an individual basis. So I think it's such an interesting coin where you have the connection piece that you can integrate with other people, or you can find those common grounds, and then you can have your individuality and self-expression as well.
Exactly. I love that you pointed that out with the travel and memories and connecting over that, because for me, what's really funny is that I have certain clothing from certain countries and they are just like souvenirs. Like for me, the most important souvenirs are fashionable items that I got in specific countries. They have this set of memories attached to it and feeling and vibe. And it's when people ask me where certain items are from, like, hey, where's your shirt from? Where your hat from? I always say the country. And people are so confused. It's just some people think I'm like trying to show off, but I'm like, no, literally, I don't remember when I go online shopping or whatever, but like I remember exactly what store I bought this in Tokyo. I can tell you the directions if you want, because I have such an emotional attachment to it. And I'm very proud that I found it, or of the story. Usually I have a story to it. And so certain things are just part of my history, like my very personal history. And I think that's really fascinating. And building on what you said with connecting with people over clothing, there's so many subgroups, like, like if you were an emo or if you were punk or, whatever current trends or different genres there is, even for certain sets of music, certain genres where you like paint your face different or you wear certain stylings. And I feel like the heightened version of those, like cosplay, you just completely change into someone else, but you just highlight certain aspects that you wish you had or that you wanted to build on and showcase, and you're just taking on this persona, but in a really playful way, not in a forced acting kind of way, but you're like, I want to play Lara Croft, and then so I'm just gonna do that.
Exactly. And I love that you use that term to play, right? Because so many of us, we get so strict when it comes to, I need to dress a certain way because I need to give this influence to those around me so they think this way about me, as opposed to, what would be fun today is if I wore a beret with a striped shirt because it reminds me of what I've seen from traditional Paris. I have never been to Paris, but when I imagine going to Paris, stereotypically, it's somebody with a striped shirt riding around on a bicycle and going to a cafe and just walking around the city and enjoying fresh produce from the market when they go there. And is that right? I don't know. I've never been, but I can imagine it and pretend for the day when it's 20 degrees and there's snow on the ground outside that it's a nice spring day in Paris and I'm dressed comfortably to enjoy a day walking around because it's playing. Is it right?
It's like make-believe. It's just so fun.
It's fun.
Yeah, I do that sometimes too. I'm just like, no, I want to feel like I'm walking through Tokyo because I'm not in Tokyo, but I'm like, I would wear this and I would like think of people walking like this. And then I would just like walk around in just like delusion of like, I'm walking around Tokyo and it's like really warm. I'm wearing a beautiful coat. And, like sometimes I just do that out of fun where I just dress up or like put on a wig, do a photo shoot because I felt like it, because I can. I don't have to share it. I can, but just letting it out, this creative expression. And even if you're not good at matching colors or like you don't know what's fashionable, doesn't matter. It's still a form of expression, and you shouldn't limit yourself or judge yourself before you even create. Like a lot of people censor themselves. I do. Before I even start using a pen to draw something, I'm instantly like, it needs to be perfect. Like the first stroke needs to be something. I'm like, no, it doesn't. Just like paint something, splash it on, be expressionistic. And if you do have colors, you can like layer it up, look ridiculous just to make yourself laugh. Like for no other reason than just like, I want to feel like an onion right now. And it's just like, how many, like when kids do like, how many marshmallows can I put on my mouth? You can just like, how many gloves fit on one hand?
Yeah.
Just, play with clothes, and then you have a different relation to it as well.
I agree. And I think that's so important. And it's something that we lose. It's something we have as kids, is that imagination, that creativity, and that it doesn't matter how it looks. It doesn't matter if, again, I'm wearing a skirt as a cape. What matters is I'm off to fight a dragon. I needed a cape. It was necessary for this outfit because this is what helped me imagine this scenario and have the most fun. And I think it's interesting if we leaned more into that in our daily lives. I think it would allow us to have more fun in other areas of our lives through the day as well.
Absolutely. It's also resourceful. Like you do not have to buy all the things because you think you need a cape right now. Just pull up the skirt like differently. It's just, or like when people have like a huge long skirt and they just like pull it up, something's a dress, like boom. Or like they have the scarf and wrap it around like a sarong, like make it a dress. You can be so creative and playful. You do not need all the latest things, all the latest trends. And then there's also the trap of suddenly it being out of trend. So you have this consumerist aspect to it, like the Shein culture where you're like, oh, and I need to buy something fast fashion and it just falls apart. But like, yeah, you can buy another one. And then ultimately you spend so much more money than if you bought a quality piece that would work in all kinds of scenarios, like a beautiful trench coat. It doesn't have to be the highest priced one, but quality should be more important than cut when it's just a trendy cut. Like, I'm like a millennial. I like skinny jeans. And so it's really difficult sometimes for me to find skinny jeans, especially now with this terrible low-rise trend coming back. It's haunting me. And so every time I find jeans that are a good fit, I buy them right instantly, and sometimes even doubly. Or if I find like a certain set of clothes that look pretty good, make me feel good, have good quality, like you touch the fabric and you're like, well, I buy them in 5 different colors. Boom, and then you have more of them, because I hate it when you have a favorite piece and suddenly it's worn out and you're like, they don't produce it anymore. It's so good. Now I just want to cry. I wish just more like these cartoon characters who have like entire wardrobe, same things, because at least they have a backup,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's great about what you said too, it's something that I think is really important, is not focusing on trends, but building what is a classic staple closet look like for you individually. What are things that you feel are always consistently going to make you feel good? And then if you want to try something as a trend, you can, again, add it in for fun, but know that it's not going to continue trending. But if it's adding value to your closet, if you feel like you would wear it and you'd continue wearing it even after the trend is over, then I think it is a good investment in yourself. But I also think being cautious about things like fast fashion is really important, because it is a waste of money, essentially. It's going to last you for such a minimal amount of time for what you would probably like to get out of it. And it's going to go into a landfill somewhere. And people don't even realize, like, even if you wanted to donate the item, if you wore it once and you're like, it's fine, I'll donate it after, not a big deal. The person who's receiving that donated item, it's not even going to last for them, and they need it, So it really is about how can we be more intentional about what we are purchasing and how we are using it and how we can get the most out of it. And I love what you said about, turn the skirt into a dress, use the scarf as another layering option, and really rediscover what you already have before you go out and purchase something. And then when you do go out and purchase something, being really specific about what are you adding into your closet, and are you doing it because it's the latest thing and you feel like you need to keep up with, again, somebody else? Or is it because I really like this, it's going to add a lot to my closet, I can have a lot of fun with it, and I can create more by adding this piece in? So it's all about changing your mindset, again, about how you want to show up and how you are taking care of yourself when it comes to getting dressed and really leaning into how you feel about all of it.
Exactly. And one thing I learned from all of the traveling is basically I have like 3 criteria for buying new things because I will continue to travel. It would be like, it needs to be light. So it can't have like a huge heavy dress that I lug around and I don't even want to pull out because it's annoying. And it shouldn't have too many wrinkles. Like some items, they just like, you look at them and they wrinkle and you're like, what? I have to steam it again. Like what? And then they need to be able to match. So like I like to have a certain color palette that I work with. So everything is interchangeable. So if I don't feel like I want to wear pink, I can still wear yellow. It still would go with the certain type of blue that I have or the certain type of green. So I don't have like out of the box items that really need to be carefully adjusted to the rest of the wardrobe. Basically, you have to build everything around that random item. So it's just really easy to not even have to think too much about it. So use too much capacity of your brain to like planning your outfit, but it's just like you can mix and match either way, whatever you feel like, and you know it's going to look good because the colors look good on you. You feel good about the colors. They flow together. You can do all monochrome or you can mix it up, but it's just easy. Just make it easy and comfortable, I feel like. And then you can still have like iconic pieces every now and then, but it still levels out.
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's so important when you're building a good wardrobe for yourself is think about what color palette you would like to have. And having that versatility option is so important because then you don't feel like you're limiting yourself. Again, it's not about limiting yourself. It's about how can you expand even further because now you can pair this with any piece in your closet as opposed to, well, I can really only wear it with this one other thing I have. So that means I can only make like one outfit out of it, maybe 2 if I'm lucky, versus, oh, I could pair this with literally anything I have in my closet. And I can wear it any number of ways. And I don't have to worry about taking it with me to travel because it's not going to wrinkle. And I don't have to worry about, oh, I'm going out to dinner this night or I'm meeting friends and I want it to look nice. And now I have to ask if somebody has an iron before I go.
Exactly. And that way you also learn to style things, like day to night outfits. The magazines always love to do that. But I think it's an important skill to have, like how you have statement necklaces and suddenly your entire outfit looks more glam or it looks more subdued, or you put a shawl around and you look more, I don't know, put together the style of your glasses or how you do your hair and then put on a blazer or put on like a jersey blazer is different than having like a tweed blazer, like how you just change the overall font basically of your fashion just by switching little things up and knowing how that works. Right.
Yeah, I think it's so important. And I think it's allowing yourself to be creative and have fun with it is really what it all comes down to. Because if you can't have fun with it, then you're not going to like doing it and you're not going to find success in it because you'll find a reason to feel upset later, whether it's you feel guilty or I shouldn't have bought this thing or now it's not trending anymore versus I did this because it was fun and it made me feel good and it made sense. It worked well with what I had going on because I made a choice intentionally instead of just on a whim, it was on sale, so I bought it. It's no, I bought this because it's going to add value to my closet. It's going to add value to my life. I can see myself having a lot of fun with this and using it in all these different ways.
Exactly. And I think that ties in beautifully with the overall concept, knowing yourself, being kind to yourself and having your own needs met in some way where you know yourself, like this is something I can see myself wearing. This is something I deserve, or this is something I just bought because I needed a quick fix of dopamine. I just needed to feel good in the moment. When you recognize your patterns and recognize what you actually like, when you're feeling calm and settled and like good, then you can recognize when you're thrown off and what you maybe need in the moment. Maybe you just want to put on your favorite sweater and just like cuddle up, like it's fine. Don't go like panic shopping or anything, because you always know how to handle a situation because you've got all your backup closet because you were mindful about putting it together. So yes, you have an emergency item to go to this random wedding or to this random funeral. You don't have to just like buy the next best thing and then you don't feel good about it because you're rushed and you're stressed and on top of all the emotion that comes with this random event. So I guess it's really about honoring yourself, and I guess then about your intuition that you can practice by consciously making these small decisions over time. It builds up. I think that's a pretty good way to wrap it up. I think we get like full circle.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that because I think it absolutely does tie back to how are you feeling about the things that you already own. It's so important to know that before you go out and bring anything new in, because how are you going to start recognizing what is going to work well for you if you don't already know how you feel about the things that you have and how you feel about yourself.
Exactly. And then just looking into the mirror and just actually giving yourself grace. Like, yeah, I feel good about this. This doesn't look good. Why? And then, you can train yourself to make better decisions to grow and like honor yourself in that way. So it's just a conscious effort of growing with your clothes, with yourself, and with your confidence.
I love that.
Yeah, it's very quotable, I guess. Oh man. Oh my gosh. I love this chat so much. I could talk about fashion forever. I really love fashion. I love like studying fashion throughout the ages and like different ways it manifested. And fashion is fascinating.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, maybe for the future, for some future podcast.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining and for being one of the first to be on this podcast and sharing your wisdom.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun. And I loved sharing, all of my thoughts and feedback on how important it is to really love yourself is what it comes down to. Because if you can't love yourself, you'll never be able to see what you want to see in the mirror.
Exactly. You can put on potato sack and still love yourself. You're still good enough.
Exactly. I love it.
Right. Yes. All right. Thank you so much. Where can people follow you and see your fabulous outfits and help?
Yes. So my business name is Vostra Moda, and that is Italian for your style, which is what I focus on with clients, is helping them find their individual style. So I am online at vostramoda.com. You can find me on Instagram, Vostra_Moda. I have a Facebook page. I also have a TikTok where I really have a lot of fun. So it's a combination of fashion stuff, but it's also a lot of just me being silly, trying on wigs and putting together fun outfits and being inspired by things like Dungeons and Dragons and video games and cosplay and all of that stuff that we talked about with creativity and having fun. So if you want that sort of element, you can follow me on TikTok. It's also Vostra_Moda there. Or if you want more of the educational side of things where I give suggestions and show different ways to make versatility out of what you already own, definitely check out my Instagram.
I love that you're matching the vibes from the apps to your different kind of content. It's so necessary.
Yeah.
And I love that. So get your playfulness fixed with fashion on these accounts. Thank you so much for tuning in into this podcast episode with Brianna from Vostra Moda, which is such a lovely brand to help people elevate their fashion style and express their personality through their own sense of fashion and develop that to make it really customizable and very individual, so as to use trends in whatever way feels good to you, but not be subject to it, right? Because fast fashion is not the best way for our planet and also I think for our mental health. And if you love this episode, be sure to reach out to Brianna or myself and send us a message if you have got questions or feedback. And if you want to get in touch, do check out the website in the show notes. Everything is linked below with all of the social channels in case you want to slide into the DMs. And I hope to see you in the next episode, which is going to be with the lovely Alice, who is a certified hypnotherapist. And that's going to be a really cool, interesting episode about the power of the unconscious, subconscious, and of course, how to tap into your intuition. So in case that is of interest to you, and in case you did like this episode, be sure to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.